Design Indaba's campaign says I'm not a designer. In fact, to be more specific, I'm not an architect. So I thought, what am I then? I love this quote from Steve Jobs saying, make a dent in the universe. How do we make a dent in the universe? What kind of things can we do to change things? Let's find out. You can be the judge. Few designers, four of us, got together. We kind of, over beer, came up with the idea. Simple idea, actually. It's so scary that it's so simple, and it hasn't been done. So we entered into Your Street competition. The project is called Urban Mosaic. These are my associates, Ashley, Stemmet, Porky, who will be talking next. Myself and Matthew Scott as the project manager. The whole premise of this is us viewing one major problem in the informal settlement, and we Cape Townians know this. We see it in a paper once a week, once a month. We can actually see the smoke rising in the townships. But before we talk about townships and things, we need to also associate ourselves with the word shack to homes. These are homes that people live in. Every time a shack burns down, people die, family destroyed. I'll run through these stats very quickly. I'm a designer, I hate stats. This is for the benefit of the competition presentation, and these are old as well. So between 1999 and 2007, there were about 40,000 homes destroyed, people dead, burned, displaced. The biggest problem is open flames. As you can imagine, candles and paraffins gets tipped over, and people have less than a minute before the fire kills everyone inside. That's very scary. And on top of that, the spread of this fire, once it jumps with the southeaster, it's incredibly fast. And the other problem, compounded with all these things, is that the fire service can't get through some of these dense areas. So by the time they get there, everything's burned down. And this one astonished me because it says here, the cost of fire relief exceeds 10 million rand a year. Can you imagine that? Why isn't there a solution that can cost cheaper, we asked. Obviously, the first one is to try and find a way to reduce the spread of fire. We looked around. There are many sort of fire retardant paints, but they are very expensive. Ashley is the DIY editor used to be, I think, for Taste. So he came across this product, actually made locally, and basically they claim that there's a reduction when there's a fire burning, and on top of that, it actually doesn't really give off smoke, which is another sort of fatality, a cause of fatalities. Of course, we can't take the manufacturer's word for it. So we're working with fire department and disaster management to test these properties. The first test burn was on the 17th of February. The burn was pretty amazing. The second shack sitting over there, been treated with the paint on the outside, didn't catch fire. In fact, it didn't catch fire. We waited and waited, and eventually, because we're spending money, we're burning money. So we ended up pushing both of them together, and slowly it burned down. But disaster management was very impressed with that. Of course, there's other tests to be conducted, maybe lab tests and other things that the fire chief also wants to verify. But I think this is a very positive step forward for us. And idea like creating a fire corridor where access is easily gained through these corridors as a first phase. Then the second one is also as simple as the first one. If we're using paint, let's use the paint to create community upliftment. This is just a sort of a rough idea of the possibilities. Somebody asked the question, how is this dealing with housing? Problem is, I don't think housing, everybody is going to be catching up with the provision of proper housing for a number of years to come. So we have to do whatever we can at the moment. then besides getting the city to try and work with us, pay for some of the cost, provide labor, how do we also try and make sure that each shack is painted for free? We came up with this idea, and that's sort of the clincher with the third point, is we want to turn a negative image into a positive landmark. Now, you fly over Cape Town as you arrive, you see the township below you. It's sort of unsightly. Now think about this crop circle, combine this image with some sort of a cultural reference, perhaps something like that. This is obviously just the beginning, a concept. There's by no means the final thing that we're intending to do. I think there needs to be mapping conducted throughout the townships to see how the pattern works and things like that. There's a whole sort of series of things needs to happen. But as a concept, I think it's pretty powerful as a massive land art where perhaps corporate can come in, sponsor their color or something like that. The one thing that we're very adamant is obviously we don't want to create a massive branding, advertising, rooftop surface. That was the competition, and yeah, we were one of the winners. The second project I want to show is, as mentioned earlier, nested bunk beds. I think this has been quite well documented, so I'll just fly through. It started with the competition as well. We won the competition based on this idea. The brief was, in 36 square meters, 8 people live in there, standard condition in South Africa. And you know, when you first think about it, is how does 8 people actually sleep in this little space? How does it work? It's impossible. Well, it is possible because they do it, but so the first thing we looked at is the bed. That was the first question we asked. How can we treat this bed and make it multifunctional and space-saving? So the idea is that in the morning when the kids are at school, the bottom 2 can be a sofa, then it becomes a grandstand seating when the kids come back from school, they do their homework, watch TV. At night it becomes 5 beds. And the benefit is that during the day it gets pushed back into one single unit. We were given the opportunity to pilot this little orphanage. We designed this layout and build it, and just to demonstrate the amazing space-saving qualities of it. This is 72 square meters. 4 sets of beds means at least 20 kids can sleep on there, and it gets pushed back to create a big play space. In fact, there's probably 40 kids sleeping there because a lot of them are quite small. So we formed an NGO called Shoebox Homes, thanks to Pick n Pay Ackerman Foundation, who was our biggest sponsor. We managed to roll out hundreds of beds throughout South Africa for orphanages and those in need. And one of the things that we wanted to make sure is that it's made low-tech, so there's no serious skills transfer. In fact, we even engineered so that it can be flat-packed. The next project is called Safmarine Sports Centre. It was sponsored by Safmarine. In fact, they contacted us after they've seen the beds, and they asked us, we've got a container, little space. Since you're quite good with space, can you think of something? But this one was done in 2010, just before the World Cup. And the idea really that we said to Safmarine is that we would like to turn this into a building. Let's forget about containers. Let's just think of this as a material. It's as good as a brick. So let's put a roof over it like a building. And let's try to use the minimum resources we have to achieve a maximum result. So in this case, we bend the roof down. We create a big sheltering roof. The roof that bends down the back becomes an advertising board, which then can sustain provide income. And then in front, you've got a little grandstand seating. That's where most people congregate and socialize and watch the game. And it also conforms to all the environmental issues. Try to reduce heat through the roof with air flowing through and the long eaves. And also we have insulations inside. The first project was placed in Piketberg, about 2 hours outside Cape Town. And you see these kids wearing orange because there's a program over there that sort of matches the Dutch football clubs to teach their coach how to coach them. So that's why the first pilot phase was chosen in Piketberg. And the community loved it. They have 21st in this place. It's constantly been used. End of last year, we finished this one. This is a collaboration with Safmarine, Woolworth came to the party, and we have AfriSam as well. And everybody sort of collaborated and dedicated their time to make this little classroom happen. The beginning of it was Woolworth ran this sort of design through, making a difference through design program in the schools. And that year they ran a competition for the students to design a container classroom. And Marchambring, the 13-year-old boy, was the winner. What we felt was quite strong was that he attached a jungle gym next to this container and he provided a beautiful big patio space for play. So we translated his idea into the container, adding our own that conform to the environmental issues. And obviously we respect the site. So there are site considerations, especially with that steep slope. That was an amazing moment because we realized that was when we can actually create a little amphitheater there, you'll see. So similar to the previous project is try to make sure that there are many elements as possible fitting together. I always like to say that it's like a Swiss Army knife. It's compact, it's simple, but it works together as a unit. So you have a roof, you have a 12-meter container as a classroom, you have a patio and an amphitheater. At the back of the container, there's a vertical green wall courtesy of Woolworth. And Woolworth again came to the party and donated this little vegetable garden for the school. There it is. Simple little structure. It's just a little project, but for the community, with all these elements, especially that dramatic roof, they feel like they want to own the project. They want to take ownership, and they have pride in it. So I think that was the biggest step. The one thing we noticed at the school was that there were no outside seating other than this low wall. So when they're eating their snack, that's the only place they can sit. So this is when this little amphitheater really come into force, because everybody in the school ends up there and they end up socializing in this little place. The back here, where you can't really see, we're still growing the vertical green wall. But yeah, the idea is the kids will look after them and learn about nature. What's even more amazing is that on top of the fact that this is the tiniest little classroom where we fit 25 kids, grade R kids inside there, 25, happily sitting together with a little knee desk. And there's a little library at the back. It functions in the morning as a classroom, in the afternoon as a little library for the other kids to come and sit here and wait for their turn to get on the bus or do their homework. What we've sort of been dedicating this process, the design process, is that we said, look, we want to make sure that everything is size-specific. We want to make sure that each design is unique. I think it's going to get quite hard once you do more of these. But that's our mandate. We want to create exciting spaces so that they have an identity. And I think the biggest thing with these projects is that it demonstrates that design isn't for the privileged. Design can make a social impact. Back to sort of other things that I'm doing, other than social project. I try to run my practice with sort of diverse range of projects, ranging from furniture to architecture. And the real reason is to have fun and learn from the process. Most people, after they wrote an ostrich, they'll write a postcard, and I ended up with this whimsical idea that I can't shake off for 8 years. They're grazing in the field. I think it's probably easier to breed real ostrich than to try and prototype an original idea. But yeah, somebody asked me, so why? Why do you persist? Why does it take so long? And I think that a beautiful idea like a beautiful woman, needs to be wooed, needs to be pursued with great persistence. So you don't give up a great idea, you must just find it and continue to make it happen. This is also a screen design that's based on 50 interlocking modular panels that we designed a few years back. And it also acts as a little lightweight shelving. The problem with this design is that imagine trying to explain to your client on the phone when he's trying to move this whole thing into another room. It's a 3D jigsaw puzzle. So we haven't figured out a way to try and commercialize it efficiently. We also do a lot of architecture competitions. In the hope that one day we'll be able to build these massive things too. This is a project in China, a Museum of Contemporary Art, where we borrowed the inspiration from Chinese landscape. And the idea is to try and create a flowing form through this rigid city grid. And that's sort of the source of inspiration. The reason we do competitions is because it teaches us how to try and distill and filter the essence of an idea and able to communicate it very clearly and quickly. This is a proposal for the sculpture for this convention center a few years back. As you know, we didn't win. There's a red man sitting outside. But the idea here is to try and take the three elements of Cape Town. The ocean, which is fluid. The wind, which this sculpture is a kinetic sculpture that blows and turns. And the mountain, where you talk about, which you suggest contours and layers. Besides the problem of cost of this little sculpture, the biggest concern was the propeller-like fins that will probably cause some fatal blows to when the southeaster howls. So working on the the project on public sculpture kind of opened our eyes to look at other urban space that has possibilities for intervention. And obviously all Cape Townians knows our famous or infamous unfinished bridge. So this is our idea, to put a museum on top of it, a gateway to the city as you drive down from the N1. And on the other side, it's an energy farm. It's got solar panels. We're learning all the time, from doing little furniture, container project. This is the last one where we Anglo-American competition, big urban project where we won third prize in association with Jakupa Architects. So really for me, it's been such an amazing learning curve, from doing small things to big things, and the ability to use design to make a social impact. Thank you very much.